not, but clearly they did. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 members.
12 members is our group size, so
Oh.
4 would be 7. So we're not quite there. 1, 2, 3, I know.
5, 6.
Yeah, but not.
Yay, God.
You're right under.
I have so many questions for you, my friend.
I mean, would appear you could probably sit anywhere because we're not too full of the house, so you could swap around.
Oh, we can do that.
If you don't like that, you can sit.
There's a board constraint. That's why I said,
Fine.
what is playing? Did you go to that?
Oh, Melanie's on.
Okay, now we have
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, my God. Very nice.
It's 12:02.
That's okay.
We don't need the temperature.
There it is.
Hold it on.
Oh, you watch it rise.
Because it's like,
Because that's the internal temperature, there's no way it's 73 degrees.
All right, we have a quorum, so we are going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Coos Bay Livability Committee to order, And we'll start with introductions, and if we could start online. Who wants to go first? David?
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to join you today.
Hi, this is Jim Behrens from CCE. I may have to break off of this midway through it. I have another commitment that's coming up unexpectedly. Thank you.
Okay, we just have one action item, and that's the first item on the agenda, so we should be great. All right, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm the only other one on. I'm Melanie Mateski. I'm the Havel Navigator for the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, Coos Lower Umpqua Siouxsie Indians here in Coos Bay.
All right, thank you. Wanna go ahead and start, Scott?
Scott Cooper, Alternative Youth Activities, Youth Representative, I believe.
Harv Shavote, Coos Bay Downtown Association.
Laura Ursig, she, her pronouns, Southern Oregon Coast Pride and South Coast Equity Coalition.
All right, and I am Stephanie Kilmer, Coos Bay City Council, and my co-chair of the committee, Sarah Stevens. Councilor Stevens was not able to be here today, but we will manage. So our first item on the agenda is the approval of the mission statement for the Livability Committee.
All right, I can start us out. So we've been kind of batting this idea around for a couple of meetings. I think we've refined it this last time. So what's presented is where we think we landed from our last meeting. The mission being enhancing the quality of life in our community. And I think that's kind of what we're tasked with for the most part, is creating that mission statement. But we did also come up together collectively with a vision, which is engaging partnerships to enhance built and natural environments, economic prosperity, social stability, community education, culture, entertainment and recreation possibilities, and safety. So that being said, and we kind of have like a tagline, which is, because we live where we love, we focus on loving where we live. So all of that said, I guess we're back to what are our thoughts on that final version of our mission statement?
Let's take the mission statement first, enhancing the quality of life in our community. Did anyone have any significant thoughts on that particular mission?
I'm comfortable with it. I mean, it's pretty all-inclusive when you think about it. so it, in terms of our mission, gives us a lot of latitude to go in a lot of different directions, quite honestly. So, and it fits, I'm just looking at our own organization. That's kind of, we view that pretty well as our mission too. So I'm more than comfortable with it.
Okay.
It's
Any
gonna-
other thoughts? Laura?
I think I noticed that as long as we envision this being something that's ongoing, because this mission statement feels like it will never end, which is fine. But if we wanted to put a like, how do we know when we're done into this mission? Which I have no suggestions for, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, I think when we're talking livability, things change and evolve, and as long as this is evolving with the needs in our community, I think that's something that can live on and change and move through that is a good thing. So it's a wonderful point. Anyone else? Anyone online?
I would like to say I enjoyed the process of getting here. We opened it up, we brought it back down, and I think it was a good process getting there.
Okay. Melanie, did you have something?
I was just going to say, I like the idea of leaving it open-ended because I'm hopeful as a community member myself that we are never truly completely satisfied with the conditions that we are leaving things, that we're always looking to evolve and make things better for ourselves and each other and all aspects of the community. So I appreciate that it's pretty open-ended.
Perfect. You said that so much better than I did. So I would entertain a motion if there's no further thoughts. I didn't open it up to David or James. Either one of you had anything that you wanted to say?
I was intentionally being quiet because I think, as Scott mentioned, we went through the ups and downs and found we landed on this. That's why I was being quiet, because I think it's perfect.
I would like to make that motion.
Okay.
I'd like to second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the livability mission statement. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And then the vision statement.
About this, Luke will be from Waste Connections, will be coming to talk with us a little bit more, not just specifically to this, but generally their services in the community. But I want us to be thoughtful when he's here if we have some questions. This is a significant change and opportunity that's getting rolled out. And interestingly, normally these things that come from above down to us to do locally, they are not funded. We hear that unfunded mandate. Although this is a really convoluted way to fund it, it is funded. So essentially what's coming to us here in this community is some recycling opportunities. Those will be funded through a fee on producers of packaging. So as a product person, you have an item, you have a widget you're going to sell, whatever type of packaging you decide to put on that, there will be a fee associated. That's a sliding scale based on its recyclability. I'm not, there's folks who are going to watch that and make sure that portion happens. When those fees are paid, they're going to go into a bucket, and local governments are the ones who access those dollars. And then we can also assign that to our providers, our service providers in the communities, if we so choose, or we can take those dollars and pass them through. That then helps local service providers kind of tool up. Expanding recycling is gonna require some different trucks, potentially, most likely. It's gonna require different bins. There's gonna be a lot of preparation for that, and so that funding will kind of help support that work. I think we put in this package the kinds of things that are intended to be recycled. It's been almost Well, we've been really seriously talking and meeting both with folks from the state and then here locally with our service providers for about a year to work through the steps, lots of paperwork. So just kind of get you guys thinking about this as we think about livability and the garbage challenges that we have in this community, and livability even being, like Melanie spoke about, leaving things better. I think this is going to help in many ways. So I don't know if there's questions or any kind of insights anyone wants to share. But.
So we would open it up right now. If there's anything that anyone would like to ask, concerns, comments.
Yeah, so I'm going to open this up in a weird way. That list is an incredible opportunities for specific nonprofits. In a past life, I was not recycling. My God, a salvage man. In the industry, we watched it cycle in and out, where one year it was an opportunity, the next year it wasn't. I mean, I hate this when other people do this from out of the area. When I was back in this other state, and we used to do it that way, but there's some lessons to be learned. We would have 100,000 square foot buildings filled with crushed plastic waiting for it to go up and down. In Oregon, we watched this with the forestry products. You know, we're not going to chop right now because the prices are too low, and then we have a hurricane somewhere. But I see an incredible list of opportunities on here for nonprofits. The question seems to be sustainability, and then I'm going to throw in one other loop, which is if we go back to a couple years ago, we were talking about getting rid of the plastic bags. And boy, was there pushback for a little while, and then it happened at a state level, and all that fare that came with it. Oh my God, you don't take my plastic bags. I wish Dean was here right now to argue about how it is affecting our birds. It wasn't that bad when it happened. And is it perhaps something that this group could do to start the conversation from an educational information way rather than watching the hype go out of control? They're going to make us recycle. It's not a bad thing. But if we let somebody else get out in front of the marketing, the general public will spiral it. How do we control the spin even before it starts? So there we go. That's controversy just to get the conversation started.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that because we have plenty of time. And I was going to say, I think, there is a difference between recycling and, like you said, there are a lot of products in there. But I think we have a full generation that has been through this process of we need to recycle because we have to reduce and reuse when we can. And you see a lot of the younger folks who are now adults looking at that. How do we better manage what we do to our planet? And their voices are getting stronger and louder. So I think, sometimes when you do the piece thing that has money tied to it, you may have that pushback like you did with the bags. And I still don't have enough to line my garbage can with, but now I have to buy them. But, I think this is probably just another step in the whole process. But what are folks' thoughts on this? Luke is going to be coming in April.
I believe that's the plan right now. So he'll be here in April, and this is just one piece of what he would intend to talk with us about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm generally supportive too. If anything, I think the frustration I've had as a consumer of the services along the way is sometimes that list shrinks, and what was recyclable for a long, long time that I was so used to recycling, all of a sudden had to go into the landfill again. But on the other hand, I think, as you say, we've all gotten used to using that service, and to the extent that it can be expanded or built upon, I'm certainly all for it. And if we can help promote that, certainly in our case with our members and our businesses here in downtown, be more than happy to be part of that effort.
I have a thought, and it has to do with the coastal community, the beauty, and there's some things that I found on the list that says only at depots and collected segregated from other materials. I know Luke will probably expand on this, and so I'm just going from what I see on the paper that was provided for us. But I'm looking at how you would go about household hazardous waste, and things that are listed are antifreeze, motor oil filters, brake fluid, etc. I see batteries on this thing. Why I'm bringing this up is because I can't remember which community I was in, but I used to be able to put my motor oil on the curb and the truck would pick it up. And part of the reason why I see that's so important here is if I've got to take it somewhere, I see that and I'll just use me as an example, I might be too lazy and I might just leave it in my yard, and after a year or so that bottle will have deteriorated and soaked into the ground. And then eventually the rainwater would wash it into the bag. I'm just wondering if there's some thought given to that. I know it's funded and probably only a certain amount of funding. I know what I'm talking about would add additional resources to a truck. But needless to say, we are the coast, and if there's any way that we could add something where that's actually something I could do as an option for me as a citizen, to just place it on the curb and someone takes care of it, versus me taking care of it myself in my own lazy way and just setting it somewhere, driving it. So I'm just being, I hope you get my point.
I'm wondering if it isn't worth having because he mentioned like the batteries, and Rotary does a battery collection where they actually collect batteries that are no longer good, and then they package them up and ship them out. I'm wondering if there's things that we could identify that would help Luke, and like you said, he'll be here to maybe ask those questions, but maybe that's what we think about in the time that we have until the next meeting. Go through the products that are on the list and see where we can make a difference, and then compile a list of people that are dealing with those perhaps, and work, because I know recycling for our community in Coos Bay is provided as part of the service that we have with garbage collection. So, and certain things have to be handled a certain way, or they do end up in a landfill. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity if we can kind of identify, what's on this list. We kind of can clearly see what the intention is there, but if there's something that's missing, we want to maybe have a plan for that. And if we know there's resources that, like Rotary could be somehow get partnered into this. Yeah, I agree. That's a good tactic to take. And there is an educational component that the local governments are required to kind of be doing. And there's materials that we'll get, so it won't be just our lift, but we can certainly share those to community partners and things like that, so we're kind of helping spread the word more.
And we have ongoing connections to the school districts as well, and I think involving the younger youth in this is a good idea, because I'll tell you what, if I threw something in the garbage when my kids were little, they let me know that could have been recycled. So they're good purveyors of information and keeping us on track, enforcing the stuff, but educating them as well.
Yeah, that's
involving them in that.
That's a great option too. That kind of adds another layer to how we're, at the city's level interacting with the school district now. Yeah. The other piece I would say is that there is a hazardous household waste committee. That's a county-wide committee, and so bringing them in, I I think I'm supposed to be the person who's for the city on that, but they don't meet all that often. So I probably need to connect with them and see where they land in all of this.
Well, especially if this is going to be across the board, this is probably a good conversation to have with them as well.
I want to give the county some credit. We stockpile things and wait for that free day, bring it in this day, and one of the things I noticed that wasn't on here, and it makes me think of our for-profit Goodwill, is computers, televisions, these large electronics. It does mention appliances, and we've done a great job at this county of making sure they're not left on Seven Devils Road by allowing them not to be charged for them. But those other smaller electronics, I think everybody just drops them off at Goodwill knowing that they disappear there somehow. The reality is Goodwill is just made a deal with the county to dump at a cheaper price. So they're actually going into the landfill. And the recycling on these are, we did have somebody in Coos County, they're over in Douglas now, that would recycle television, solar panels, computers, but it's pretty labored with more things that need to be dumped. It'll be interesting to see what the next generation does with all this.
Anyone online have any thoughts?
I know from experience, I am an avid recycler. I think this is exciting. I think it's a great opportunity. And I think like with any change that exists, whether in our personal lives or families or community, looking at it as an opportunity and ways to make our life easier, better, less expensive, or the community better, I think it provides conversation and education to all of us. And I know myself just by accident, because I used to save, paint cans or oil cans, not knowing what to do with them, that the Beaver Hill dump takes them all the time. Of course, you have to pay for it, but they do take it. Let you just dump the whole thing in. So, like you said, having the resources and knowing where things can go is a big piece of all of this.
So the marketing for this, or I guess marketing is like a loose term, is like the city's responsibility, while the doing of the work is with our sanitation folks, yeah?
Yes, that's
Okay.
currently where it lands. And it kind of speaks to like the cycle of it. So education is through the local governments.
Is that on the How Recycling Act works?
Yeah, how the recycling modern, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's an education kind of piece in there.
So just to throw a Google fact out there, Maine is the #1 in recycling. They recycle 285 pounds per individual. And basically the body weight of most people is what they consider we should be recycling every year. I think one of the problems that, as an educator that has done a couple little clips on recycling through the years, the process and the energy that it takes us to recycle is not penciling out. The younger generation is pushing the idea, we've got them in their mind, and we just need to educate that, yeah, it may not pencil out as far as cost-wise, but it does in a longer carbon footprint kind of perspective.
And is like having additional, so there's more things that you can recycle now, it looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
On your curbside, if you're in town. Like, where was I going with this? I had the honor of being on a recycling team in college and going through the recycling bins in the dormitories and sorting them. And I'm curious, like, is anything changing on that end? Or is it like all of the potential things that you could recycle get in one bin and turn into mush during the rainy season? Like, what's that gonna look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do know that this funding supports getting new bins. Now, I don't know if that's like size with lids or if it's sorted bins.
Yeah.
Because I can think of like some of the kids I've worked with,
Here's
some of the humans I've worked with will find excessive sorting is going to be a reason not to do it because we're busy. And so it's like, how do you reach that piece? I'm curious about that, and that might be something Luke can
Yeah.
answer, I guess. But
Ultimately, we have or the city, I'm not the city, I live in the city, a contract with a for-profit company that actually ends up doing a good majority of this work. So if we buy new bins, it goes to that for-profit company, out to the residents, and then the responsibility will become that for-profit company.
So how the city of Coos Bay is elected to do this was to make our service providers the direct recipient of the funds, so that we don't have the complication of how we manage that in our accounting system. It's just not, yeah. So we have to sign up that way. They will then be accountable for the reporting and all of those kinds of things that come along with that. We'll have to be in the loop because we are, you know, essentially the receiver of the dollars. But that's kind of, so they're going to buy the bins. They're going to buy, there's going to be new trucks. They've recognized they're going to need to, I think this is going to go county-wide. So I think there'll be some increased county service with this. So they're going to need more trucks to kind of meet that need. So, and we've had conversations about like the supply chain of getting these bins when the whole state of Oregon is going to be required to. Yeah. Like the build out of this, that we have a timeline that we're like July 1, it's not going to be met. You have all these organizations having to get vehicles. They're only produced so much throughout the United States. Like it's coming, but be patient. Yeah.
And right now, they do report, they do some reporting on certain things that they're doing with regards to recycling to the state already, the company.
Yes.
So especially because they also do marketing to encourage that. That's part of their mandate. And so I think they report quarterly, don't they? I think it is.
Yeah, I see, and they come in and review with me an annual report that the city signs acknowledgement of. So we come in, we have a meeting, and both with Lessa Sanitary, we have this like 2 companies that operate here, Lessa Sanitary and Waste Connection. So Dan from Lessa Sanitary and Luke from Waste Connection will come in and we review those, and they make sure that I understand and can get on board with the reporting. But that's annual. I don't know if they have, just as their companies, some additional reporting. But from our perspective, we have an annual.
Well, and it will be good to hear from him as well on what we can do as people who are recycling. Yeah. Because like just this morning on my way to work, their person over in North Bend was actually sorting through a bin that someone had put on the curb. And so they have to look at it. They're hand sorting when they're out there. This is, very labor intensive to do this. It's, you talk about it takes resources. It really does. And I think they have a person that does just the recycling.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's possible.
So. Any other comments?
So as part of like the ask or curiosity here, like who else needs to be in the room to be like a helpful, like who would be a good partner? Like you guys are talking about working with the schools and just try not to think too big, but
I
I'm
just
curious.
think of like this whole thing, what's the umbrella of this look like? I think there's, who are education partners for sure. Who should we be asking to help us encourage and inform from just like this is coming, but also how do you be a better consumer of products to, we all play a part and sorting is your part, that kind of thing. But then beyond that, like, we're going to get materials for education, but are there some things we should be thinking about pushing out differently than what we're going to get that's canned? The educational piece is going to come from the producers are required to put that together. Will they catch all of the angles, because they're doing it from, this is my...
a room to talk about what they do, because they'll do that the recycling of the plastics that aren't recyclable locally. because they have a network of people. And I think when we talk about education, there's like that, I'm always going to be that person who's like grassroots, who's
Yeah.
already doing this work.
Is there a lead? with the
Yeah,
book?
if you
That's-
ask Tim, couldn't tell you his last name right now.
He's at,
He's at the co-op,
At the
yeah.
co-op, okay.
Just ask for Tim.
Okay.
There's also the green team that they have, which is like a team that really works on this sort of stuff in general. Like they help out with the Mayfly Festival and ensuring that it's like a zero waste festival. So I think that's another aspect too, is like bringing in some people who do big events and like having conversations with them about what do you need in order to make your festival recycle in a way that's responsible. Like we could give people awards, I don't know. Not like this comes with a whole full-time position to make it roll out, but that would be cool if it did. 'Cause
I think
feel
that's a fantastic idea. I was going to bring it up, you mentioned after Tim, so I was just going to sit quietly, but after you said incentivize it, it's on the paper, it says incentivizes sustainable products, producer fees will be higher for non-recyclable products, and those creating more environmental pollution. That makes sense, so back to my motor oil, if I put it on the curb, I expect that I'll be charged $10 for that fee, I get that, but what if, like you were kind of hinting at, what if you encourage me to sort my own stuff by giving me like a rebate at some point on my bill, $50 a year, something like that, I don't know, and that might help with sorting some things out, just ideas.
Yeah, so those are ideas we can certainly look at. I don't know, like funding wise, to see what this is gonna like come down. We think like, oh, there'll be this bucket of money, but does it truly fund all the necessary trucks and bins? I don't know that yet. But if there's additional amounts there, yeah, is there a way to encourage a shift in mindset?
It'd be fun to take a few like schools and thinking like elementary schools too, and picking out those like science teachers who like to do that hands-on science and learning about recycling and having info nights and things like that with the kids and their parents, or just the kids. Or we just do a remake of Captain Planet basically, and the marketing seems like a solid choice. Anyways.
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, we used to bring our phone books in and they collect them at the junior high school, we get money for that.
Phone books?
I was just gonna say, didn't we reduce those a lot? Just by not having.
Yeah. No, but point taken. There's a current version of that for sure.
Google.
Maybe that e-cycle piece, that's the current version of the phone book, yeah. Because I'm just learning, like I thought Goodwill was the e-cycle, like you look up e-cycle in the state and Goodwill is a location, but I didn't realize it meant they just have an agreement to go dump it.
I should probably not get them in trouble. I'm sure, I do believe they pull out hard drives and a few other things to make it legal. I'm sure they have some requirements they have to do.
Things we could learn.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, I have it on my list, e-cycle, yeah.
Scott's name next to it.
Anyone else have any comments?
I have a question. Do we know if there'll be like signage available? I'm thinking of places that most everyone that I know goes, and that's the grocery store, Walmart, places where they frequent a lot in case someone doesn't get a flyer or pay attention to a flyer, that there's signage sitting on a counter showing, hey, these are the things that you can recycle, make sure you recycle. I don't know, something in form of a cling that goes in a window, opening into a business, or even the schools, you talked about the schools, are there any programs in the school where the students can make this signage? That could be part of a project where they can make a recycling, one of those little easel stands that sits on the end of every cash register everywhere you go, to just make it more in the forefront of everyone's mind, that this is a new opportunity for them. And I don't know, I'm just thinking of how can we place it in front of everyone without depending that they're going to read a pamphlet that comes in the mail.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I need to understand more about what that marketing piece looks like coming down, but the kids piece that you just brought in, like, that's an opportunity for this community to say, hey kids, we're gonna put this marketing material out, give us a design, and you get a $25, $50, something like.
Get money off your garbage bill, which won't throw the.
Well, not even just that, but can you design something that we're gonna now use to educate the community? And then that gets kids, I don't know, my kid did a World's Weather Kid coloring thing and got in the paper, and it was a big deal in our family for a little, so.
Throw a pizza party and then recycle your pizza box.
Yeah.
I know, you gotta clean it out.
And I mean, something else partnership-wise is I feel like Coos Watershed and Mayfly would love to do things with this every year and make it like a share-out. And I'm thinking about the Banana Slug String Band, like if there's a party aspect to this, bringing those guys up here, who sing, if you guys don't know them, they're like a kids' science songs, which sounds really kind of lame and interesting, but they've been together for 40 years. We had them at like the second festival, and like, you learn about the water and you learn about wastewater, but you're singing a song.
Yeah, that's what sticks in your brain.
Yeah, and like partnerships like that are kind of like fun because you get to heighten this and educate people in a space that they might not expect you to.
Yeah. So
And useless information that you didn't think you needed to know. I still remember the states in alphabetical order because of a third grade 50 Nifty United States. And that was a really long time
I
ago.
didn't have that song growing up.
Oh, well, I'll sing it for you
I
sometime.
can do the McDonald's to all beef patty special, but I can't do the states.
This is a new team breaker. I think we should see who can sing along with you.
Yeah.
All right, moving along.
No, those
I
are
want
all
to keep my
great.
job up here.
Yeah, I mean, I think finding a way to engage, I think we have to think about something different. It can't just be about the printed word and a picture on a wall to get people kind of to buy off on this and realize they play a part in this, so.
And we need to meet them where they are. Electronics, 7 seconds, create a video, I think those are all good things that we can use as tools.
Yeah.
So they're much better at it than I am. All right. Anything else? Well, we do have a little bit of time left. We don't have anyone in the audience, so there's no public comments or anyone here to participate, but I thought maybe I'd open it up and see if there's any burning desires from the committee that we need to maybe take a look at for future agenda items.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Are there any problems that you're seeing out in the community that are livability type issues? Well, that's what I'm saying. If you see a problem, what solution?
What solutions are you working on?
Yeah, what solutions are you working on? Okay.
Sinkholes.
I think we're all working on sinkholes. Does anyone have anything?
This is a really big project. I mean, that we could really sink our teeth into this one. I think it's.
The
Sinkholes.
No, neither of those.
recycling.
Recycling, yeah. This is a good one, and then the safe routes to school. I think that one identified some safety concerns that could maybe roll back in here because we're going to have limited funding on that one, I think, and they made more recommendations that we can.
Of course they did.
Yeah. But if we look at this, a few of the ones that are left over that may not be able to be addressed and say, well, what can we do as a community?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of time has been spent already identifying some of those problems. Maybe we can.
So, did you have some areas of concerns when it comes to getting kids to and from school and?
The Safe Routes to Schools has identified a whole list of them, a very large list of them. And some of them were infrastructure, some of them were as simple as striping new spots and things like that. I also am involved with, Jim has left, but we had a community watch conversation the other day that identified a few simple things that we can do, like put up signs and whatnot, that we had a lot of conversations regarding it's our neighborhoods, and maybe we should be more proactive and not just say, we're going to call the cops and they'll take care of everything. We are parts of this community, and perhaps some marketing on that, saying, oh, your new program, what is it? See something, say something.
Yeah, been around a little bit, but so is that, do we think there's an opportunity to bring like maybe someone from the police department here that can speak to some of the stuff that was talked about during that meeting? Like, as a citizen in your neighborhood, what are things you can do that are safe, that helps you not become the bad guy when the police show up? Maybe that's a piece of it, and from that we can develop some marketing, such a word, but yeah.
Hey.
Well, I mean, in this instance, like, what product are we
kidding, I do it
selling,
for-
you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we're
Right.
marketing it necessarily, but.
I feel that part of the marketing is not to say whose responsibility it is, but to somehow develop this idea that it's all of our responsibility. Because, you know, what did you say earlier? Unfunded mandates. And then I always like to use, it should be like this, it could be like this, but this is what it's like. What are we going to do about it? So, yeah, there's some low-hanging fruit here that we can jump on board with other people doing things. Community watches, Safe Watch, this school, the state's recycling. I mean, if we just give a little oomph to projects already moving, it's going to make our community a lot better.
It's interesting because, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, go ahead.
I was just going to second the whole,
No food.
I was going to second the motion or the idea on the safe routes to school. There was a lot of effort put into that, and as you say, there's probably 25 recommendations for each of the schools, and, you know, we're looking at getting funding for maybe one or two ideas in there. But there were a lot of ideas in there that didn't necessarily require an awful lot of funding, and it's kind of like you hate to see that go back on the shelf and not be dealt with. There's a lot in there that I think could be moved with a minimal amount of dollars.
I think that the point that I think we're saying here is there's a lot of things going on that just needs a little extra.
Yeah.
And because I don't think we're funded, are we?
No, you do not have a bucket.
No, there's no bucket here, but we could help other people that maybe have buckets, maybe need things moved. And a lot of them, like you said, don't really cost much money. Oh, we just did it, adopt a block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got two blocks.
That's what I actually was going to point out. We had the Coos Bay Downtown Association meeting on Monday, and I actually brought that up. You know, that the Adopt a Block program kind of gives ownership, or it gives property owners or people in general the opportunity to take ownership and say, I want to make sure that this area stays clean. So I want to make sure that leaves aren't going in the storm drain, because ultimately, you know, that affects a lot of things, and the pocketbook. So is that even a common term anymore, pocketbook? But, you know, I think that that's important, that maybe, you know, partnering with organizations to create on some of the low-hanging fruit on those lists. When you talk about 25 recommendations per school, that's a lot. That's a lot. And maybe there are things that we can partner with organizations to, I'd be interested in seeing those lists, to see if there's something we could partner with
The watershed just recently did one we got involved with last year, putting some signs and whatnot, but that was the water drainage and collection. And yeah, that's low-hanging fruit. Let's help people that are already in this battle.
Yeah,
Or
so-
we can take on homelessness.
We can certainly, get some information from city staff who participated in that, or even maybe have one of them come in and share. Yeah.
Okay. Christine?
Just as an FYI, at the April 3rd Parks Commission meeting, they will have a discussion of the Safe Routes to School draft plan. So they'll be reviewing that in the Parks Commission meeting, April 3rd, should you care to tune in.
Okay, that'll be available online as well, and you can just go to the city's website under agendas, and you can log in to that and listen in.
And it's also available, it'll be on YouTube as well.
Afterwards, yeah.
During.
If you haven't subscribed to the city's newsletter or the YouTube channel, make sure you do that. My marketing plug.
We are, as the city, gonna, just do some things a little bit different. We're gonna participate in the home show this year, which will give us departments an opportunity to sit in front of the public and share what they do, but also these kind of educational pieces we can add to that booth. We're also contemplating a booth in the farmer's market. So again, same kind of thing, getting people boots on the ground who do the work out in front of the public to kind of share information about what the city does. Hopefully softening up government a little bit, so we're not so scary. So I guess that's a piece of what's happening here. If you see an opportunity for us to be focusing on something in those stages, we certainly can.
That's wonderful. I love it when we take and we meet people where they are. I think that's it's hard because you have so much that you're doing in a day, in a week, in a year. But I think it helps communicate that we are doing all of these things, and what it gives people an opportunity to also say, well, what are you doing about this? That we may not even have viewed as an issue or a solution or like that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Sorry, I'm filling the space with all the words today. The other thing that I'm kind of just poking around with, and I haven't even brought this forward with any seriousness yet, but I've had some conversations around.
Please pardon, I ring the door. Are you taking a break or something? I ring the door.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the ring the door bit is.
Oh, ring the door.
At the window?
Yeah, not the door, the window.
So we have a citizen that's trying to connect with the police department, and he's having trouble, so we'll hold that thought from Nicole. Is there any other thoughts while she's out with that individual?
I was approached a few months ago by a advocate for senior citizens, as well as a person who was a senior, sharing about the challenges they face in Medicare in regard to transportation. And I know the future kind of is iffy in that area, but I was wondering if there's anything we could look at in regard to transportation, particularly for seniors that are on fixed incomes. And Medicare only allows a certain number of visits to doctors. So anyway, it's just something she brought forward. She's just looking for help in some way, if there's any way.
I'm wondering if, because I did bring that up at a meeting, but I'm wondering if it wouldn't be good to kind of get an update from CCAT, which provides our public transportation, at this meeting to see if there are, maybe that would spur some thoughts on transportation. We can't change what administration is saying they can and can't do, but is there something as a community that we can do to assist? Or is there a way to work with transportation companies outside of our public transportation to maybe assist those folks who are really in a dire situation?
Is there, so like, I work with youth and families predominantly, and like systems of care focuses on that like younger family thing. Is there a version of that for our like elders where we kind of address barriers and stuff? Because that's a very similar challenge.
I'm wondering if the Department of Human Services does. They
Something
have
like
an
that?
aging and people with disabilities building over off of Colorado and North Bend.
There's a nonprofit right around the corner, can't think of them, that is involved too, but I don't know of any meetings like systems of care that are doing that. But the number one growing population in homelessness has become aging. It is becoming,
I mean, if
We'll hear
nothing
more
else,
about
just
that.
hearing that makes me think the Equity Coalition is interested to hear more of that, because like rural populations, like that's part of our priority group, and if they're having issues getting transportation to medical, we don't do direct service, but that's worthwhile policy-wise for us to pick up and talk about, so.
Feels like we might be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, my goodness.
Sitting out there.
There is definitely something going on.
Yeah.
All right. We were filling the time, and we were talking about transportation and some of the
Okay.
issues that that the senior population is facing with the changes that have been coming from Medicare and challenges with the limitations on what Medicare, how many times Medicare says that you can visit a doctor using the transportation system.
Okay. Do we think that there's an opportunity to have someone from CCAT come? Yeah? Yeah?
She's got it on the list.
Okay. I was going to share when I had an opportunity to help someone at the police department, kind of batting around the idea, this is again, the softening of government a little bit, and getting some engagement from folks who are not typically sitting here, creating a youth council. This is in other communities, and it can range from junior high up through college students if you have access to those folks in your communities. And so I started the conversation with the school district. Obviously, Scott's got some kids in his group, but I don't know. I think that's a piece of the puzzle here, kind of getting that feedback, getting them encouraged to participate in the government process. I haven't vetted it out yet, so it hasn't made it up to the folks who would decide whether or not we want to even engage in such an idea. But it would give an opportunity for one, and we get updates to council. The high school historically has come in and given us those updates. But this is like a seat at the table. They get to participate in that conversation in a council meeting. They can vote, but it doesn't necessarily hold the same weight. But it brings in another perspective, and they are the perspective of the future. So it's a livability thing to me, but it's also kind of rounding out our work that happens. So working on it still, but.
I think we did have a position on the Livability Committee for a youth person.
Yeah, they're
And-
working on who Harper's replacement is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think anytime that you have an opportunity to engage the youth and have them sit around a table and bring those things, I think that's almost critical.
Yeah.
Anymore.
So this is one I'm passionate about. In fact, in 30 minutes, I have a meeting on this. We have organized homeless youth groups from around the state that will be getting together on May 31st with a cheetah. Everybody seems to like the cheetah. What was that? YEHA is one of them. That's one group, but we also have another group called YOU. We just gave it an acronym, so Youth of Oregon United or something like that. It's definitely that. But the meeting is about getting them together. One thing so youth groups have been a struggle for the last few years, and a lot of the funders want their voices on that. Don't have to explain that. We can understand why. but engaging our youth and them feeling, why am I here? So we've kind of flipped this back around and said, A, if we got to pay them to get there, let's pay them to get there. Time is time. We would want to get paid if we were going to go, right? B, we have to make sure that we allow them to have the voice. I think a lot of us have been speaking down at them. So changing this perception, because they're our future. If we don't start training them now, and then 10 years from now, we're going to say, well, don't they understand these things? No, because we didn't teach them. So helping youth to find their voice and then stepping aside so they can use it is what my meeting will be about shortly. I know, obviously, you do the same thing, involving people from the regular, we're special populations, right? But the next thing that we need to do is not just be special populations, get all the populations, and I believe that's what you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not just have one group or two groups, let's have them all in one space so that they unite. We've built silos amongst our youth. I don't know how to bring them back together to see themselves as one voice.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, but obviously we've got some heavy hitters here that can help move it forward.
Well, I would definitely be interested in hearing more about this and being interested in hearing more about the programs that you're talking about. Maybe we can have a presentation on that as well. We are coming to the end of our meeting time. Is there anything real quick that anybody online needs to bring forward? How about here in this room? Anything else to talk about? All right. I appreciate everyone's time today and everyone who will be checking this out in the future online. This meeting is recorded and available for playback. So thank you for your time today, and on behalf of my co-chair of this committee, I will go ahead and thank you and adjourn the meeting.